Welcome to episode 9 of Christianity, Cults, and False Religions. Today, we are going to look at Buddhism. Buddhism is considered one of the 4 major world religions, and as of 2000, the year 2000, there were 350 million followers of Buddhism, and the popularity of which is certainly rising in the West. There are many famous people that claim Buddhism as their religion. Folks like Richard Gere or Harrison Ford, and maybe for some of those of you that are younger that are watching, Harrison Ford, maybe know him as Han Solo on Star Wars. Buddhism is one of the main ways in which Asian philosophy has made its way into contemporary American culture. And one of the ways that they've really found the way to do that is via the American college system. And it's become very well known and popular on college campuses. About 2,500 years ago, Hinduism, which we talked about last week, reigned supreme in India. If you remember last week, we talked about the caste system, which was created there in India, really through Hinduism, and people really became enslaved to that. So during that time, there were obviously many reformers who came up who wanted to liberate people from the enslavement to the caste system, including a man by the name of Siddhartha Gautama, who became later on known as Buddha. As with Hinduism, there are many offshoots to Buddhism. One of the main offshoots, probably one of the most well-known ones, is Zen Buddhism. Again, it's almost hard to pinpoint, and this may even be shorter this week than any others because it's so hard at times to pinpoint these things when their beliefs are all over the place. But Siddhartha Gautama, who again later became known as Buddha, was born in Nepal, and he was born in one of the higher caste systems. However, as a young man, he abandoned his wife and he abandoned his young son because he felt that he could no longer endure the life of a rich nobleman. Now that may really sound interesting. You would figure the people in the lower echelons of the caste system would be the ones who say, I can't endure this anymore. But here was this man in the upper echelons of the caste system who said, I can't endure this life as a rich nobleman anymore. And when he left his wife and son, it basically led him to become a wanderer, in his opinion, a wanderer in search of the truth about life. And so, supposedly, for 7 years, he wandered and he inquired and he meditated and he learned and he sought for truth. And after 7 years, he found what is known as the true path and great enlightenment. Supposedly, history or legend tells us under a very well-known bo tree. And he had, when he found the great truth, of the true path and the great enlightenment, he had finally attained what is today labeled and known as nirvana. Nirvana is not just a grunge rock group that started in Seattle, in the 90s. Nirvana is known as freedom from the suffering of this world and merging with the merging for eternity with what is known as the world soul. And again, so much of this is going to sound very similar to Hinduism because Buddhism is an offshoot from Hinduism. And so basically, nirvana is whenever you free yourself, you free your mind from the sufferings of this world, and you really merge with with the oneness of the world and the oneness of God. The key writings for the Buddhist are known as the Tripitaka, which is interpreted as the 3 baskets, and that has about 100 volumes that are written in it. However, when it comes to God, Buddhism is actually mainly atheistic. Most Buddhists would not actually claim to believe in any sort of God at all. Some would maybe speak to Buddha as a universally enlightened conscience, or maybe a god. But that's probably the closest thing that they would come to it. Jesus has no part in this belief system. Some in the West, not the people where Buddhism started, but some people in the West would claim or believe that Jesus was an enlightened man. But for the most part, he has no part in this religion whatsoever. Holy Spirit, same thing, has no part in this religion or this belief system, whatever. The whole goal of Buddhism is to reach in this life, to gain enough enlightenment to reach nirvana. And again, this is basically the escaping of all the desires and all the cravings in this world. And it's actually when we escape the desires and cravings of this world that we will also escape the sufferings that come along with this world. And the way you do this is via the Eightfold Path. That's what they have. They have an Eightfold Path that's unfolded again in these scriptures that they have in their writings. It is the system by which you are freed from your desires. And so they basically say that birth and sorrow and sickness and death and reincarnation are a result of clinging to the passions and desires of this world. And so they're trying to get you to release those passions and desires of this world, so that you can be released from the suffering of this world, so you can be released from this cycle of birth and life and sorrow and death and reincarnation. And so in order to walk this path, there's an eightfold path. The first step in this Eightfold Path is what is known as right belief. Now, in order for you to have right belief, there are four truths, what they would refer to as four noble truths that you have to believe in. The first one is the truth of suffering, and that is, if you exist, then suffering is part of the deal. If you to exist is to experience pain. That's the first. That is the first noble truth, the truth of suffering. To exist is to experience pain. The second truth is the truth of the cause of suffering. And again, they would say the cause of suffering are cravings and desires. Cravings and desires are the cause of suffering. And the third one is the truth of removing suffering. And so basically, to reach nirvana, the cessation of suffering, they say that you have to learn to cease from suffering. This is the truth of how to remove suffering. So there's the truth of suffering, there's the cause of suffering, there's the cessation of suffering, which is reaching nirvana, and then the fourth truth is the way to remove suffering is by following this fourfold path. So that's right belief. The second step on the Eightfold Path is right resolve or right intention, which means you have to deny your own sensual pleasures, and you have to live a life where you do no harm to people. The third step is right speech, and that we would understand what that is, to have kind and generous speech and truthful speech. The fourth one is right conduct, and so you need to live a life of love and joy and even abstinence. The fifth one is a right life, one in which you avoid evil and you try to do good. The sixth one, I feel like I'm missing one here. Okay. So the fourfold path, which is the first step is right belief. The second one is right resolve. The third one is right speech. The fourth one is right conduct. The fifth one is right life. The sixth one is right thinking. Okay, so you must be alert. You must be mindful. You must be sober-minded. And then the seventh one is right meditation. And so we talked about meditation last week, which leads you to the eighth and final step, which is nirvana. That will ultimately release you from karma, from reincarnation, just like Hinduism believes, and give you nirvana. And so if you follow these paths and do these things, you will reach nirvana, which again releases you from the desires and pleasures of this world, which are the cause of all suffering in this world, And that is really the basic synopsis of Buddhism. Like I said, it's going to be much shorter because so much of it is very similar to Hinduism because it was born out of Hinduism, and also because there's so many different parts of it. It's hard to pinpoint each and every single one of them, but these are the basics of it. And also, there's not a whole lot to say because there aren't a whole lot of comparisons for who God is, who Jesus is, salvation. Those are just concepts that are foreign to Buddhism altogether. It is very much a works-based um, religion. You follow these paths, you do these things, and you'll reach nirvana. This is very much something that the devil has used to blind men's eyes. It's one thing for them to have a confused understanding of who God is or Jesus is. It's another thing for them not to believe it at all and replace it with something completely different. So one of the main things we need to do as believers is pray. Pray for them. That God would remove the scales from their eyes by which they have been deceived. So I hope today has been helpful in having a little bit better of an understanding about Buddhism. Join us. We have 3 more weeks left where we look at the New Age movement, which really isn't that new at all. Universal Unitarianism, which you may know the name Sun, and Moon, a little bit more, Moonies, those kinds of things. And then lastly, the very last week, we'll look at Jehovah's Witnesses. And so I pray that you'll join us for those 3. Hope you have a great rest of the week, and we will talk to you later.